started being an artist around the age of 19. I've always been creative, always been making things, did fine art at school, did an art foundation course, and at that point I didn't know what I was doing or why I was doing it. So I lost a certain amount of interest at that point, and then I worked full-time for a year, and in that time I used oil paints for the first time, and that's when I started painting with oils, and it just worked for me so well and inspired me in a way that I hadn't been inspired before. Well, it's people that are my main inspiration. I love faces, I love expressions, I love emotion. I'm an emotional person myself, and I think that there is something so incredibly fascinating about the originality in different people's expressions that are very quintessential to who they are. I've worked continuously throughout whilst continuing with my practice, because which is kind of a double-edged sword, because obviously it gives me my independence, being able to work and live independently in a city like Bristol, because my family aren't from here, but also at the same time it then takes over the time that you would want to be creating, and also the cost of actually making work is pretty massive, plus the cost of having a studio, organising exhibitions, promoting them yourselves, getting flyers, doing all of that stuff comes straight from the artist, and it's difficult to do that as often as you can because there's a lack of a balance between time, money and having to actually work. A lot of people don't feel necessarily like they know enough about art to be worthy of enjoying it. And also I guess there's probably an element of a question over whether something is actually worth the price that it's put up at. Because obviously you've got, there are some artists that can make a piece of work in an hour and they can sell it for £2,000. Because of the notoriety of who they are, I think with unknown artists it's quite difficult. The best way to reach people that you don't really know is exhibitions, especially dependent on location, because there are some exhibitions that I've done that there's just no footfall at all, so you only get your friends come in and say hi, which doesn't necessarily help, but it is lovely at the same time. They're all works from photographs, and that is because I'm quite fascinated with the momentary image that you can get from a split second, and I think that is the best way for me to capture emotion in my work, and I think that comes through because people come in and say, oh wow, that seems so alive, and that is essentially what I'm going for, so it's a good thing that I get that comment quite a lot. Okay, if money was no object and I was to travel around the world exhibiting my artwork, I would probably be more drawn to areas that are similar to Bristol, I think. Having that kind of air of creativity that is very evident in the architecture or the surrounding areas, such as with like street art and graffiti and things. That would definitely be something that I would aim to head towards initially, just because I think those are the places that are going to be the most receptive. There is a level of creativity that people have that brings them to a place like Bristol, because everything is changing and moving and you get to see all of these wonderful things, and there's so many creative events and exhibitions going on around the city all the time. As far as changing the art world, I'd like to do something that made fine art more accessible to the masses. So it isn't just a big scary thing, and galleries aren't big scary spaces where you need to go in and get judged by whoever's sitting behind the desk, you know. Just to show people that if they're interested in something, whatever it may be, that it's completely accessible to them, and it should be inspiring, not scary.